Strategic Planning Committee meeting is called to order for May 9th, 2019.
2019.
2019?
Well,
Hold on. Mr. John Cagley, would you do the invocation?
thank you, Mr. Chairman, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings on all the men, women, and children of Ascension Parish, and in particular the Strategic Planning Committee who are doing the people's business tonight. We ask that you bless us and guide us in all our actions, and may your Holy Spirit be with us at all times, for we place our lives in your hands, always and everywhere, always and every time, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Every member is here. Mr. Cloyd is walking up. Any chairs addition? I do have a chair addition. The parish president called me and he would like to discuss emergency hookup to homeowners in certain situations. If y'all wouldn't mind.
Motion to add that to the agenda.
Second.
Roll call. Ms. Jessup.
Councilman Satterley,
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Randy Cluott,
Yes.
Councilman John Cagliotti,
Yes.
Councilman Oliver Joseph.
Yes. Okay. All right. Moving on, we're gonna move that to item 7. If you don't mind. Okay. Any public comments? You have the right to put it up on the green or red card. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Moving on to item number 5, approving the April 11, 2019 strategic planning minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, no objection to that. Minutes are approved. We're moving on to item number 6. This is a resolution to support House Bill 422 to repeal the state outreach into local control of workers' protection policy. I put this on. I have a group of people who is promoting or going out and asking for support for this bill. And I have Miss Janae Jenkins and her group. Would you please come up, introduce yourself, and speak on that behalf of this bill that you're looking for our support?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Janae Jameson. I'm with the Power Coalition for Equity and Justice at 2022 St. Bernard Avenue. And we're a statewide civic engagement table for the state of Louisiana, and we focus primarily on civic and voter engagement and also provide support and build structure for community activism and voice, as well as political and policy advocacy as well. And we are members of Unleash Local. So Unleash Local, we are a group of local organizers, workers, unions, and faith-based leaders who are repealing the statewide ban of local control on economic policies and paid leave policies. So in short, we are trying to repeal the statewide preemption, the federal minimum wage level. And I just wanted to talk about some points of why we feel as though this is very important to us. Basically, this ban has been on the books for over 20 years, and we were the first state to implement it. But we're trying to look at the actual facts and provide local solutions. So the people or the economy has not been benefiting from this from over the past 20 years. In fact, the unemployment rate has not significantly decreased. There are still 1 in 4 individuals who are not able to find a substantial job. And Louisiana is ranked 2nd highest in the nation and in poverty. We ranked number 49th. And we actually have the highest child poverty level at 28%. So my simple question, or not even a question, just statement is, who is better equipped to bring in or to control the economic policies in the local parishes in the cities in which you are governing? Is it the state legislature members who are from Mandyville or Slidell or Baton Rouge, or is it the individuals who I'm actually speaking with, local leaders in local municipalities? We are not saying that we think that the parish of Ascension should have a set minimum wage. Rather, we are saying that you, who are local leaders, should be able to determine what is best for the parishes in which you are governing. So this bill is simply saying that we should give local leaders the authority to control the economic policies, because you know the economic makeup, you know what resources and what you would like to bring into the communities rather than state legislature. So we are trying to end statewide overreach. And before my colleague goes into greater detail, I just want to point out a few facts, because some arguments are that it would kill, those local businesses or local jobs. But in fact, before even looking at the various studies that we have received to debunk these issues, it's simple math that when you are actually providing people an opportunity to achieve, higher standards, local living standards, that they will actually make more money, then they will pour that money into those communities. You would pour more resources into those communities. And in fact, that lower incomes were basically lower income workers, they would increase the GDP by adding demand, disposable income, and buying power into the community. So I'm just asking you to just look at the basics, look at the facts, but also who doesn't want more power and the authority to control the cities in which they live in. Thank you.
I think that my colleague made a very good case. My name is Peter Robbins Brown, so I'm not going to add too much more to that, other than just to point out that the resolution that I believe you all have in front of you, and if not, we can get you some copies. We're out with it. All it's saying is that you just want the authority to have this decision. Right now the state bans city and parish governments from doing a lot of things. This is kind of a heavy-handed, top-down structure. Whereas we live in a state where people have often expressed their desire to have more power at the local level. So I think it kind of goes against the stated values of the people of the state of Louisiana. I think it goes against our best interests. I think that if I was had run for office at a local level to do what I thought was best for my community, I personally wouldn't want the state to be sort of handcuffing me from being able to do those things. So again, the resolution is just to sort of say that you believe that you should have that authority, that you should be able to have the discussion without worrying about the state sort of coming in and smacking you down on it. And with that, I'll end, and I would be happy to answer any questions. We've, like I said, like my colleague mentioned, we have a lot of research and quite a bit of detailed work across the state. These resolutions have been passed in both sort of large cities and parishes, small cities. We're working with communities all over the state of Louisiana to pass resolutions similar to the one you have in front of you.
Okay. I would like to open this up to any questions. All right, Mr. Kluan.
Yeah, once more, what is the organization that you guys represent?
We represent an organization called the Power Coalition for Equity and Justice, but we are with, the statewide campaign is called Unleash Local. Mm-hmm. We have local chapters all over the state that are, their own grassroots organizations, Unleash Baton Rouge, Unleash New Orleans, Unleash Lafayette, Shreveport, Alexandria. We're all across the state. And these are grassroots organizations that, have sort of, became aware of the campaign and decided to start their own local chapters.
Yeah, Ms. Jenkins, Jameson, I apologize. I wrote Jenkins because he said Jenkins. Ms. Jameson, I apologize for that. Correct. And what organization are you with?
We're with the same organization. So we are with the Power Coalition.
Your office in St. Claude?
No, St. Bernard Avenue in New Orleans. So we're
That's
based.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah, we're based in New Orleans, but we're a statewide organization.
Are you a lobbying firm or a nonprofit?
No, we're a nonprofit. Yeah.
Okay.
We're the statewide civic engagement table for the state. So we are a coalition of various members who are focused on different, have different principles, but we're a nonprofit organizations, and we are in support of House Bill 422, and we are members of Unleash Local Coalition, which is the statewide campaign.
Just excuse my ignorance, but who is the author of that bill?
State Rep Royce Duplessis of New Orleans, Louisiana.
And I just
Does he have a co-author on that?
No, he does not.
On the Senate side.
Outside of Senator Troy Carter.
What's it, Bishop? Sorry. Yeah, it's on the Senate side. It's Wesley Bishop. Sorry.
Say that again?
Wesley Bishop is the sponsor on the Senate side.
Okay.
One thing I did just want to jump in, because I think that the question you asked, or maybe the information you're looking for is, like, are we a lobbying group, or are we, do we have some sort of like big money behind us or something of that nature? I don't know if that was okay. Just when you asked about lobbying, sometimes people ask, we came from New Orleans, like, why are you here? Or who's?
No, I like New Orleans.
Okay, yeah, but we are, the Power Coalition is made up of just community organizations,
and I would like to point this out too, that Ascension Parish has a connection to me because I graduated from Ascension Catholic High School, as well as I'm a native of Napoleonville, Louisiana. So I've been organizing within the river parishes, and it's often that larger cities like New Orleans and Baton Rouge and Lake Charles, the bigger metro areas, the people, the constituency, they're very educated and aware of what's going on in the legislature, as well as different local electeds are very involved. So I want to make sure that those who are from the areas that I am from, they are aware and they are afforded the same opportunities as well.
Okay. How's the Orleans council?
They voted 7-0 in favor of this resolution.
Good deal. So Christian Palmer?
Yep.
They all voted yes.
We got all 7 voted in favor. Shreveport voted 7-0 in favor. Alexandria passed it with a slimmer margin. I don't remember what the exact number was.
What about Lake Charles?
Lake Charles has not passed it yet. Lake Charles is one area where we just started getting talking to people on the ground there. We had some infrastructure in place in Orleans, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, Alexandria, Monroe. Lake Charles was a place that we didn't have as much infrastructure in place.
Yeah. But just, in Ascension Parish, we do enjoy a better unemployment rate than either the state nor the national average. And we have a very wonderful public school system. So we work hard at the things that you're talking about, and we're lucky to be very industrious parish, since you're from here, and a lot of our, probably the balance is 60% of the tax base and 40% of it non-industry, but the balance on wage is flip-flop. Mm-hmm. The numbers of people that are in the lower paying jobs in the feeder industries for the parish are not. You got a smaller number that's inside the chemical industry and refineries and stuff with the higher paying jobs. So I understand your point. What do you expect some? The governor's office. What is the governor's office point on this? Far as minimum wage.
So the governor has his own bill working its way through the Senate right now, which would raise the statewide minimum wage to $9 an hour. So that's a separate effort, and I think because that was his effort, and that's something he's been working on each year that he's been in office. It's just kind of a different thing than ours. We've had very little contact with the governor or the governor's office, more just for them, like when they found out about this campaign, they just kind of called to say, like, who are you? What are you working on? We told them. They said, that's great. That would be wonderful if it worked, but, we have our own thing, and it's a separate effort.
It's a separate effort, but we've all been at the table together, so.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you.
Mr. Cagliari.
Just a question for you. What you mentioned is, municipalities.
Yeah.
You're all in Shreveport, Lake Charles, Monroe,
Mm-hmm.
Lafayette, whatever, Lake Charles. What success have you had proposing this resolution to parish?
Caddo Parish just passed it actually about an hour and a half ago. So that was the first parish-wide passage that we've had. Again, this is this campaign, in terms of really building out at a statewide level, really just kind of got going basically January, February. And so that really just involved us getting the word out, finding people in communities who agreed with our effort, and then sort of supporting them in whatever way they needed to sort of, build up their own local chapters. And part of the local chapter is to try to get these resolutions passed, right? So each one's kind of going at its own pace that they can work out.
So you're not looking for specific levels of wages. You're just saying give us the authority to establish those.
Exactly.
Have you heard any pushback from, say, a municipality saying New Orleans or Baton Rouge, in our case, the city of Gonzales versus the parish, and having different wage scales, how that might impact?
Yeah, so that's an interesting. So that is a point that's brought up. This idea that if there's different laws, businesses might have a difficult time navigating that, for instance, right? But the point, I think, a very easy point to make against that is that businesses pay different people different wages in different places all the time. As far as would it set sort of Gonzales against Baton Rouge or something like that? I don't know if that was.
No,
yeah,
Gonzales against.
Right,
Parish.
so if you're looking at Gonzales, that's one number, in Baton Rouge, that's another number, right? What would happen in that case, which I think is something that we would.
Would the lower scale people go to the neighboring parish to get jobs, and you have trouble getting jobs in your parish?
Yeah, so that's actually
possibility.
So it is a possibility. The interesting thing about minimum wage law and family and sick leave policies is that because the federal rate has remained the same for nearly 11 years now, longer than it's ever kind of remained at the same level, I don't think that's a good thing personally. We can all disagree, but one thing that it has done is create this very fertile ground for research. I have a research background, so the nerdiness in me comes out on this. And so the minimum wage has become one of the most studied subjects on the face of the earth, in America and around the world. And one of the things that we've looked at is that, because the federal rates remain the same, states and counties and cities have gone about raising their own. And so it's created this environment where we can actually compare when one city does it and the city next door doesn't, or county to county, state to state, parish to parish in our case. Well, not in our case because we can't do it. And every study, including the sort of what are called meta studies, which take a bunch of studies and look at what they do on aggregate, show that the kinds of fears that we might have about that people moving or that kind of thing actually just don't happen. It's kind of like a fear that has just not been borne out in reality. I think we find that people live where they live for a lot of reasons. Their family, their friends, it's where they're from, it's where what they love. People who live in Ascension Parish live here because they love Ascension Parish. So I think that's what we find is that it just doesn't happen in reality.
One quick example is when they had the video poker here, every parish had the right to vote in or out.
Right.
The one that voted out, the next parish voted in. The people here that wanted to go actually went, and the outer parameter parishes are prospering from that vote, and where you lost a lot of money, because you voted it down. So that's just a comparison of what I see,
Yeah, and I think
wage.
that's a valid question. I think that just in terms of how it plays out economically and the way people's lives, gambling is sort of this,
right. That's a
different kind of just.
It's a different game, but just a scenario of how it would
Yeah.
work, by voting separate parishes.
Right, and, but we
out.
see, I think it's just sort of a different approach,
Yeah, right,
right?
yeah.
People are going to gamble; they're going to find a way to go gamble.
Yeah, they're gonna do
if
it,
that's
right.
what you want to do.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Clua.
Yeah, real quick. I don't, have y'all approached any of I don't know how the approach was in New Orleans that made it go a 7-0 vote for it. But have y'all spoken to the business side, the
Absolutely.
chambers of commerce? Have y'all been to the East or West Bank Chamber of Commerce here in Ascension Parish?
We have not been to the Chamber of Commerce here. This is actually our first sort of attempt to put it in front of you all, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're not here to ask you to go one way or the other. It's just we want to introduce you to the idea and kind of get see how you responded and what you thought. Work with you and answer as many questions you can. The business community has a wide range of responses to this. You know, there's some who are very much against it. There's some who are very much, very much for it, and kind of everywhere in between.
Yeah, just a quick question. I would think that, I'm not in business, so
Yeah.
I don't know, but, there was discussion if somebody leaves the parish and goes for 50 cents to $1 more somewhere else, I guess on the business side, they would be looking at whether they leave and go somewhere else. Okay? That has been the rebuttal, both on the national level and on the state level. So, real quick, as you follow the whole scene, and like you said, you do the big studies, out of the 50 states, has any state went away from the national and set their own?
Oh yeah. So Louisiana is one of 5 states that doesn't have, only 5 that doesn't have a minimum wage.
Right.
So we
I
refer
want
to
that
the
brought
federal.
up. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I've seen that already.
Right. So pretty much every state has gone away from the national. And as a matter of fact, I believe it's something like 70% approximately of the workers in the country live in jurisdictions that are above the national rate.
Right.
Because of these cities, counties, and states taking it upon themselves to do it. But again, we just don't have that. We have this one blanket policy that every city and parish in Louisiana is forced to live under. We just kind of think you should have the freedom to decide, and maybe you decide to just not do anything.
Well,
But-
I just, since y'all study it a lot, I'm just wondering, what's the reluctancy of the state to bring this forward? This subject has been every year, okay? President Obama served 2 terms. That was one of his strong things.
Yeah.
Didn't make it happen. So what's the reluctancy of the state?
Do you want the political answer or the straight
No, I want
answer?
the true answer.
The real answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know all the political side. I'm an elected official.
Okay. So the real answer is that the Citizens United decision unleashed, to steal our own campaign name, a lot of corporate money into the political system.
Right.
We went from a place where money had a large influence to now where it dominates the system. There was a study by LSU that came out last month. 81% of the people in this state want to raise the minimum wage. Why don't we do it?
I would think they would.
Right. You can't get 81% of people to agree that ice cream is good. That's a big number. So why don't we do it? I believe that it is because of this huge amount of corporate money that has sort of captured our political system, in particular at the federal and state level. We don't see it as much at the local level, which is another reason that we think local is in a better position to make this decision. And I think that those billions of dollars that have poured into the political system have heavily influenced politicians at the national and state level, and that's why we haven't seen the increase, despite public support.
I mean, you mentioned Napoleonville. A lot of my great friends, lifelong friends there. My wife's from right outside of there. That parish is not blessed with the amount of industry that we have.
Right.
And those people need all the help they can.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. And, I hate to say it, but at the same time, we aren't granted the same economic opportunities throughout the state. So that's why it's more important that we actually give that responsibility to local elected officials, because we know that the cost of living varies from Napoleonville to Gonzales to New Iberia to Orleans Parish. So it's not the same. So why are we all at the same level, as Peter stated? So.
Thank you. And I'm going to just close with every one of my children have worked for minimum wage until they reach their professional living.
And I will say that I started off in minimum wage too, but what I will tell you is,
ain't good.
Right. I will say what I will tell you is I'm not going to deny the privilege that I had, because my parents were able to pay for my cost of living. My parents were able to pay for my bills, but I saw my peers who struggled trying to start off in minimum wage and balance that, and then weren't afforded that same opportunity. So I'm very aware of my privilege, and I am not the majority.
Right. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Don?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, the old chicken doctor, that's me, if you don't know it, had my first job in high school, and it was 25 cents an hour. And that might sound frighteningly low, but for the time, it was incredible. I made tens and tens of dollars that summer. What is unfortunate is that they took Social Security out of that. And I've done the math. I'd be a millionaire if I could just have that back. But anyway, that notwithstanding, let's get down to serious business. Can you, Louisiana, you said, is one of 7 states that does not set a minimum wage rate. Is that it?
5.
Oh, 5. That's even worse, but, okay, so I think Mr. Kluart seems to understand why, but I'm not sure what that's telling me. It's telling me something. I know you said that, well, let's start, you said that 81% of people in the state really want a minimum wage of, or ability to
Increase.
An increase, okay. What is your source of data for that 81%?
That was the Louisiana State University, our state's flagship university, their public policy institute. That came out about 3 weeks ago, I think, was the study was released.
So that's LSU data you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. But you have not been before the local Chamber of Commerce. That kind of piqued my interest. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is just our first attempt.
Because I don't, frankly know a whole lot about this at a local level or even state level, but I've done fairly extensive reading at a federal level. One of the things I commonly read, I call it the donut example, is that there are some businesses, albeit they may not be the majority in terms of total numbers of businesses. Obviously, when you consider some of the huge companies we have in this country and everything in between all the way down to the small guys. But I remember reading about in companies and businesses like donut shops who pay minimum wage. If it were increased just a small amount, they'd literally have to fire employees in order to keep making their product and selling it and making just whatever their profit margin is and so forth. And so instead of helping these people who need the job, you in that regard are hurting them. How would you respond to that?
So
and I know you've been fair. You said that there's some people that support this and some people that don't.
Yeah. So I think that's a great question. And it's
Thank
one,
you.
Yeah. A chicken doctor with an interesting economics question. So apparently you're a man of many interests.
Well, let me just say something about that. The poultry business is a mega, watch this, vertical commodity system.
Oh, wow.
In which, big companies own everything. They own the breeders, they own the hatchery, they own the feed mill, they own the abattoir where they kill it. And the only place you can even get into the business is a mom and pop that might have a chicken house where the company, whether it be Tyson or ConAgra or whatever, Sanderson Farms, Little Miss Goldie, they'll bring you the chickens on day one and they'll pick them up 6 weeks later, and you do everything the way they say. And trust me, the margins are tight. So it's big business. People think it's just feeding a bunch of chickens in the backyard, but it's huge.
No, I'm aware, and I'm actually glad you brought up that as an example. So I want to.
That would be the other extreme from the donut example.
Yeah, well, if I can I would like to actually address both of those because I think they speak to really interesting points.
Although let me say this, we have lots of minimum wage workers in the poultry industry.
I know, and
someone has to pick up the dead animals every day. Someone has to, be sure that the feeder doesn't get clogged, so to speak. Somebody's got to render the carcasses and da-da-da.
So there's 2 interesting points that you've spoken to that I would love to address. So first, let's talk about the donut shop, okay? There are businesses that operate on tight margins, and, if we raise the minimum wage, some of them might lose some employees. What we find, though, and again, this is across dozens of studies in America, around the world, when we've seen these minimum wage increases, those job numbers are made up for in other businesses that have to hire more people or pay high, or give more benefits or do a better job of attracting talent because they're now seeing more revenue. People can afford to pay for their products and services. And so that's why we see actually across, and this is talking about just the low-wage earners, when the minimum wage increases, across the board we see no total job losses. Certain studies you see 0.01% drop, in certain studies you see 0.04 increase. But when you take them all together, each side, it's very tiny, whether it goes up or down. And overall, when you are looking at such a small amount, those can be explained by a lot of factors, right? Just like it was a bad month, kind of thing. We see those total job numbers stay the same, again, because where certain employers might have to lose an employee or two, especially in these smaller businesses, other employers get to hire more people. And it ends up sort of evening out. Speaking to the issue of sort of mom and pops and large corporations, which is what we see And I think this is really important here in Louisiana, where we have a lot of national and multinational corporations that have, whether it's dollar stores, fast food restaurants, giant agricultural businesses. What you see is they're million, if not billion-dollar businesses. They can afford to pay minimum wage, poverty wages, because they don't care about the community as much. Not all of them. I don't think they're all bad guys, but they have this very large business model. And now mom and pops, like a small family farm that might want to compete with Tyson. Well, a small mom and pop family farm can't compete with Tyson. Tyson has a huge, essentially, monopoly in that business. So if you're a small mom and pop and you want to start up your own business, you're essentially forced to be almost like a vassal of Tyson. What I think that we get an opportunity to do when we have this local control is that local governments, if they so choose, can actually protect their small, locally owned businesses from the overwhelming financial advantage that the national and multinational businesses have. And also those businesses, they take their profits, they don't really reinvest it in the community. A small, locally owned mom and pop, they want to pay their employees better because they want to keep their employees. They know their employees are friends and family. They know that they want to be able to reinvest in the community. So that money stays in the community. These giant national and multinational companies, they take the profits, they take it out of the community, they often take it out of the state. Often they even take it out of the country, putting it into sort of, offshore accounts. So that money doesn't go back into the community. So I think both of those issues that you brought up are greatly helped by this sort of an initiative.
Okay, so I'm looking at what's in our packets on Novus, the resolution itself. I want to be clear on this. I think Councilman Cagliati has maybe already cleared this up in his questioning. You're not really even asking for council support to support a certain minimum wage more than you're asking for the power to that. It's sort of like state rights at the federal level, but now local rights at a state level for us to do that. But you said the state isn't do anything, and not quite sure what that means. I think you've only indicated Caddo has, as a parish versus a municipality.
Well, Orleans Parish, too.
Orleans. And what about St. Tammany, by the way, while I'm at it?
We've another one that we've kind of just recently started getting into. We're talking to people in St. Tammany and Tangipahoa. We've got a couple local organizations who are
plan to
interested.
talk to them, but you don't right now. All right. So two things. First of all, the resolution in our packets, and I mentioned this in Novus, it doesn't mention House Bill 422 whatsoever.
Yeah. So this is
Let me finish. Let me give you a
sorry,
question.
Jen. Sorry.
Okay. And also under Section 1. It looks boilerplate where you can keep filling in, inserting city or parish on all the whereases and so forth. But when you get to the be it resolved part, which is always the take-home message when any local governing authority, be it a municipality or a parish, decides that they want to get behind something or not, it says the tradition of local decision-making in Louisiana should be protected as it provides each municipality. That wouldn't work for us. Is that just a typo in your document?
Yeah, so we provided Councilman Joseph. This is just a draft resolution and we in different
and
parishes.
I understand we're just discussing it. We're not. But you do realize we're also a recommending body. No one said that yet tonight. So even if we were to act, which we're not, I have the chairman's promise that's not the case right now.
Yeah.
And when we bring you guys back or whatever and decide whether we're going to make a recommendation or not, that certainly would have to be fixed. But I would also like to see, but maybe it's too late, because if you use this boilerplate for a whole bunch of other cities already in a few parishes, so if you somehow explain to the people really what are we endorsing, because House Bill 422 may have all kinds of other things in it besides just the minimum wage issue, does it? I mean, I don't know. I'm just totally ignorant.
Yeah. So it also addresses family and sick leave policies, giving local control over family and sick leave. This draft resolution is not every city's not just taking this and putting in their new or parish putting in their name and saying like, okay, we're passing this as you provided to us.
So you're not asking us to do that, just do those insertions as much as you're saying this is just an idea in case you want to do something on your own.
Yes. Yeah. And so if you wanted to put in specifically like we are supporting House Bill 422 or you don't, you can do that. This is just sort of something to work off of.
So does the Power Coalition for
Equity and Justice.
Equity and Justice and the offshoot, I didn't capture that.
Unleash
You're all interested just in the minimum wage part or all the rest of that stuff that's in HB 422 or?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
are you interested, the Power Coalition, in just the minimum wage issue, or are you interested in all the other stuff, sick leave and whatever,
Oh, yeah.
Paid leave
Yeah.
policies
all
as well.
that stuff?
Yeah, we are.
So you like everything that's in the bill?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I would highly, personally,
Because
highly
coming back,
recommend.
at that point, Doc Sally won't be ignorant. I'll have looked at least at the bill. Okay?
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you in 25 words or less, so that was another question, but we won't do that tonight, to tell me exactly all of what's in the bill. Let's see, I had another question. Actually, believe it or not, Mr. Chairman, I think that's it. You know, we always told federal law trumps state, and state law, I'm gonna do like Mr. Clue, real quick.
Yeah.
And we all want to go home tonight. We have one item on the agenda, and now dread the thought we have two. It is date night again. State law, federal trumps state, state trumps local. Right now, you're telling me I'm one of 5 states again revisiting that don't have anything, so there's nothing to trump us, period, right now. So what are we doing right now in the parish? Is there anything that any one of our employers want to do?
So yeah, well, 725 is.
Or are they bound at least by federal law out there?
Yeah,
Federal.
so we're bound by. So basically, the 725. That means that it's people in Alaska and Maine are deciding what our minimum wage is.
Well,
Well, a combination of everybody.
correct that.
Yeah, okay. Would you want to correct them?
No, yeah, I'm saying, we're basically just running on the federal law.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's make that clear.
Yeah.
In the state, the Fed hadn't done anything to change it in 9 years.
11.
11 years, excuse me. And the state is just sitting there running on the Fed.
Yes.
And they haven't done anything to
Right.
change it, so.
And when,
That's
when
where
the old
we
chicken
stand.
doctor does,
And everybody inside the state's running on that.
Yes.
Right now, okay.
and so when the old chicken doctor does do his homework, okay, next time I'm going to see the history. Is there, something you'd want to share preliminarily about? This can't be the first time this was tried, because I think, as Mr. Cluad has well stated, this has been going on at the federal level forever that I can remember. Yeah. I think I was a graduate student back the first time I read something about it.
Yeah. So you mean this approach by repealing the state ban?
Well, the whole idea of lifting the minimum wage has been a controversial issue in this country forever,
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
and remains.
Right.
And
Yeah.
occasionally there's a little bit of lift to it, and there's a lot of grumbling, and both parties, so to speak, hate to make it a political issue, but you readily admitted it is a political
Oh,
issue.
absolutely.
They dig in and claim victory and da-da-da-da-da, and everybody just has to deal with whatever was done in that regard. Why not? Let me take I'm not a libertarian, by the way. Why don't we just take
Throw
a
it at me.
libertarian approach?
Call Wayne.
Why not just let, he's telling me to call one of my colleagues. I can't do that. Believe it or not, I don't have these guys on speed dial. So why not just let the free market decide that, period? Because I think you're going to tell me because it just produces great injustices. Is that correct?
I could give you many reasons.
Because if you don't want the job, you don't
to
want.
keep it short, I'll say yes.
Well,
that's the
let me
answer.
say this, okay? You even though you have, watch this, a degree, and you took all of Dr. Sadley's poultry classes, and you graduated.
You a poet?
You got a BS degree in poultry science.
Oh, poultry.
And I get you a job in an abattoir. You know what you're going to do?
What's that?
Everything. You're going to hang chickens, and then when you're proficient at that, you're going to cut off preen glands, and then when you're good at that, you're going to drive conveyance vehicles throughout the floor. You're going to do inspection. You're going to be on the eviscerating line, and go on and on, right?
What do you get paid for that?
Well, I'm just saying, regardless of your college education, the company's going to tell you that's what you do, or you don't get the job.
Right.
And then the industry has, and most do, a policy that the cream comes to the top. So if you were good at all those things, first thing you know, you're the assistant, associate, full plant manager. First thing you know, you're a regional guy over a whole bunch, and you're making 6-digit salaries. Something Doc Sally had to spend 35 years trying to do. Interestingly enough, I started in 1977 at $14,000 a year at LSU as a college professor, and then in 2011 I ran for my seat on this council, and you know what they paid me?
$14,000
$14,000.
Yeah.
I must have needed my head examined, right? But I didn't do it for that.
Right, you did
So some people just do it because they want to serve or whatever and feel real good about what they do. And I just want to kind of make that point.
Yeah, but I think when we're talking about low-wage workers, we're actually talking about people, you spoke about being younger and doing it, as Janae did. I also worked for near minimum wage when I was very young. I think what we're in reality, and it sounds nice, the idea of the cream rising to the top, and if you work hard, you'll move up, but that's just not how it actually works in practice. A lot of people work very hard. They work multiple jobs. They work 60 hours a week, and they're major breadwinners in their family, and they're just not making it.
Yeah, the majority is not a person who is living on their own and just responsible for themselves. The majority may be a single mother or a single father who has 2 to 3 children who are hustling and bustling and trying to manage these many minimum wage jobs. Even with you being an elected official making $14,000 or whatever a year, I'm pretty sure that you are not able to pay your mortgage off of $14,000. So there are different sources of income coming into your household. Me, myself, personally, if I had one minimum wage job working 40 hours a week, I would not be able to pay my average rent. As I've stated before, just based off of my privilege, if it were not for my parents, I would not have been able to pay for my rent or my cost of living at such a young age. So we're looking at the majority and the larger percentage of individuals, not the very few who may have been afforded a certain opportunity to start and work from the ground up.
Let me just, a parting shot. Y'all know what the windfall exclusion provision is?
I've heard it, but I don't know.
Okay, I'm a victim of it.
Okay.
Excuse me, a recipient.
There you go.
The federal government, in its infinite wisdom, before I retired at LSU in 2009, after 3.5 decades of service, I kept getting these Social Security statements saying that I was going to get $800-something a month Social Security. You know what I get? A little over $200 a month. Why? They said I was whipped out of the program. I thought when I first heard that windfall exclusion, they mean I was whipped out, because they decided that because I was also in the teachers' retirement system in Louisiana, that's a windfall. So their bargain with me became no bargain, and we just taking all this 60%. There's a little table, and they could take up to a maximum of 60%. Pick me, Lord, I'm the 60%. So, you know, there's just all these kind of problems when we get into promises made, delivered, wages, stuff, et cetera. I mean, if I didn't have the teacher retirement system, I couldn't afford to do this job. And by the way, for the record, none of us do this for 14 anymore. We make big bucks now. We make 19.
All right.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I quit a 6-digit job
We make 16.
to do this. But anyway, I thank you so much for listening to an old man's ramblings and stuff. And certainly this council, I'm sure.
And I'm happy to give you my card, and you can reach out with any more questions. I would
Absolutely.
love to answer
and
anything.
you have been helpful. Thank you.
You got 2 more. We're gonna go to Kagalani.
Real quick, do y'all have a website?
The Power Coalition are both, actually, yeah. So powercoalition.org is for our organization, unleashlocal.org for the campaign.
PowerCoalition.org.
Powercoalition.org, unleashlocal.org.
Unleashlocal.org. And secondly, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend that we take this under advisement and share the information with the other council members and then address it.
This is for discussion, and this is why I brought it to here, just to let the public know what's going on. And because they came to my district first, and they know I'm in favor of rate increase for minimum wage. Yeah. Okay, Randy?
Sure.
I got a quick thing is, what's more complex to me than just a wage, okay? And while I have probably left a place to go for a better wage, I've stayed somewhere because I had good benefits. And that's a very, the whole benefit program is a little bit more than most people understand the amount of dollars and cents that an employer puts in for that. So within this House bill, I know within this House bill, it also covers that.
Family and sick leave, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right.
So, and again, that would just give this body, well, the wider body when everybody's here, just the ability to say that, you know, if you work, you know, for every 6 months you work, you should earn, you know, 3 days, and it doesn't even have to be paid leave. That's why it's family and sick leave, not paid leave, right? It's earned leave. So the idea would be to just say that, you know, for an employer, you know, if they have, you know, X amount of employees, you might even set that bar, right? Like any business over 20 or whatever you decide to do. If you work 6 months, you should earn 3 days or 6 days or whatever you decide is a reasonable benefit to sort of set as a minimum standard?
I personally work for a large organization that has employees in other countries, in Europe proper, in several countries, and I look at what they have for holiday.
It's nice.
It's nice.
Yeah, France, they get like all summer off.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I just think that that's some of the things. We holler about the money all the time, and when I was young, the money meant everything to me. All right, and but it's a much more complex issue when we get it down to the local level, and I would hope that our state representatives, which we have, 4 of them in our parish that represent us in Baton Rouge, and that they would take a look at this and be more proactive into it, and into an opinion or whatever, and not just let it sit by the side. And I'm not saying they are, because I didn't keep up with who brought the bills forward in the past. All of them, I knew a couple of them, but while I'm not familiar with Royce Duplessis,
This is his second year in the legislature, so
Right.
yeah, it's still a little bit new.
and so it's just more than just us having the power to regulate minimum wage within our governing area, which is the rural areas of the parish, not the municipalities.
Right.
We have an overlay of parish representation, and then also the cities have their own representation. But
And we're trying to talk to everybody. It's just something about, we want to get the word out, let people decide for themselves. And that's kind of, is that right now, the state, and in a lot of ways the federal government, is imposing this one standard on all of us, no matter what we want. We just don't think that's very fair, especially because the state has been unwilling to do anything about it. And, again, in the rural areas here in Ascension, maybe 725 works. I don't know enough about your local economy to say. I don't think it can. It's still, if you work 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year at minimum wage, you're still below the federal poverty level. So that just seems.
I got a quick question
Yeah.
for you. There you go, Doc. I said quick. Have you addressed the waitress wage?
The tipped wage.
The tip wage.
So again, that would
Is that
be,
part of your
that would
plight
be
in life as an organization to try to do better for people?
as an organization that does a lot of work in New Orleans. Yes, we would love to see.
They have a very large.
I think it would be great if, for instance, restaurants just paid living hourly wages and we didn't rely on tips. There aren't a lot of businesses that force their customers to directly pay their employees for them.
Well, has our friends in New Orleans, the vote that they made,
7-0,
did it address the tip wage?
Well, they would have the power to do that. It did not specifically say that we plan to raise the tipped wage, or
I would figured it came up in comment at a meeting like this somewhere.
Actually, it didn't.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was kind of, sort of a foregone conclusion at that council meeting that it was going to be supported 7-0, so I think that the people who might have been against it decided to maybe wait to fight that battle another day or in another place.
They have a very higher percentage of their population that makes a living in that range of work.
Absolutely.
Right.
Tip wage.
Yes.
And again, we know that there will have to be various studies and things taken into place, but the focus of this resolution is just simply the authority right now. So, baby steps until we actually get the full studies and focus on the actual parishes.
Well, you got a presidential election coming up. Let's beat somebody up on that level to get it moved.
Since you
We are a 501c3 organization, and we are non-political.
So we got, since you said parish president.
As you guys know, our starting scale is $11. Okay, we have all the benefits, FMLA, and we still, like for example, CDL drivers, we pay $15. Industry pay is $25. So we are constantly up and down on that, but we have to do what we have to do. But we, as far as knowing the people, like in the industry of McDonald's, they'll tell you that they don't want people to stay at the low scale. They want them to work up to be managers, and of course everybody's not managers and stuff. So understand where you're coming from, just basically like the ITEP situation, to give us the authority to regulate the parish, I presume,
Yeah.
outside the city, so, anyway.
And I just
yeah.
wanted to, that when we look at who's paying minimum wage, it's not local business owners. It's McDonald's, it's Family Dollar. And so again, if you want to start your own little, local shop selling the kinds of things that Family Dollar sell, they're going to undercut you. And they're going to keep paying poverty wages. And you are not going to be able to afford to compete with them. If you want to open a little burger stand here in Ascension Parish, you're not going to be able to compete with McDonald's. Because McDonald's is going to keep paying whatever the least they can possibly pay. They're going to give the fewest benefits they can possibly pay. And they're going to keep their product as cheap as they can possibly keep it. And the quality is going to, I don't want to cast aspersions. Maybe we like McDonald's, I don't, but
What about Walmart?
Walmart has actually, so that's, one of the things, Walmart's taken it upon themselves to start raising, and that actually came from measures like this. There was so much grassroots pressure put on them.
That started years ago, I remember when.
Yeah, and it was because Arkansas, their home state, started putting ballot measures on the ballot, and we saw that when people got, we don't have ballot measures in
Their
Louisiana.
full-time employee versus their part-time employee versus benefit.
Yeah, and what we saw is that their home state of Arkansas had these ballot measures. The minimum wage, they're going up to $11 an hour by 2021 in Arkansas. And so they took it upon, and Arkansas in their home state, they were like, well, if our home state is forcing us to pay our employees this, we got to start kind of paying it around the country. And essentially their minimum wage that they're paying is slightly ahead of where the Arkansas state minimum wage is, but it's closely correlated.
All right, so I would like to end this, and I just want to recognize, I want to thank y'all for coming. I wanted to make this more informational. I think it was way a lot of information to pass around, so please do go to our chambers. Also, I know you are talking to the city of Downsville, and I know, please reach out to the city of Gonzales. And so, like we say, this was for discussion, and we'll bring this back and, talk to people to see if we want to move it forward, and appreciate it. Also, I just want to recognize Ms. Baptiste back there. She is on their team. She is promoting this in Ascension Parish, and Ms. Baptiste fight for everything.
I always know that when I'm standing on Ms. Batiste's side, I know I'm on the right side. So that's how I gauge whether I'm doing the right thing or not. If Ms. Batiste agrees with me, I know I'm in the right spot.
So you have a real team leader right there.
She's one of my favorite people. So
all right.
And I just wanted to close with this last information. This bill is actually being brought to the Labor Committee on May 16th. So whether you are in support or whether you may not support it, we would like to see you there at the state capitol May 16th and have the time to actually voice or vocalize your opinion with the state legislature.
that's even if you disagree with us. We think the idea is to have the conversation. Right now, we can't.
Do you have a time?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.?
Yeah. Right now, we just can't even have the conversation. We just want to be able to have the conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Really appreciate it.
Gotta go back to New Orleans.
Be careful. Drive careful. Yeah, bad weather.
All right. We're going to move on to item number 6A, and that would be the parish president to discussion on this
Sure.
policy.
Okay, for a while now, I've been talking to different parishes, and in Ascension Parish, if your power goes out, the wind blows, knock the line down, tree limb, a person doesn't pay their bill, they got to go through all of the permits and inspections and all of that stuff. Whereas, for example, in Iberville, under those emergencies, and they got a set time, I think it might be a week or so, whatever, the power company is given the privilege to go put the meter, fix the wire, put the meter back on, unless there's a problem with the service.
Right.
Other than that, they just do it. But if they go there and there's a problem, they're going to tell the people you got to go to the parish and get an inspection. So I just think it's all in right. We live in times like today. We might have some powers out tonight. Those people there tomorrow morning, they're going to have to try to scramble and get it inspected. So I think under an emergency type situation like this, I talked with Energy today. It's y'all call in our parish. Every parish operates different.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second that.
to go to the full the full council has to.
Okay, so,
And I got
Mr.
a question.
Between now and the meeting, I'll get O'Neill to write something up. Okay? Guys?
All right.
All right,
Sound good.
appreciate that.
All right, got a motion to move forward with Mr. Cluett. Mr. K, Todd? Todd, second. All right, now, before we pass it, we got a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I
Mr.
just want to thank you, Parish President, because, and committee members, because post-storms, after the storms, we've had to actually take our crews from our inspections and everything, and we beat up everybody to run over here by this house and make sure it's good and all that. And we've had plenty of instances where we could have got people back in power for days earlier.
Correct.
Had we left it up to the good judgment of if the power company wanted to put it back on, so.
Well, they can't do it without your permission to do it. But when they're professionals, and when they go to that house, if there's a problem, they're not gonna put that meter. So, thank
Okay,
you.
so, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All again? I got it. Motion passed.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 7.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. No objections in motion? Meeting adjourned.